All right, here we go. Monday. I'm actually ready today. I feel pretty good.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am. I'm awake. I feel good.
Come on, the pre-show, you were dumb as a stone.
No, so I was talking to Tad for a little bit.
That's true.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, we're Power and Speed. Wow, my voice cracked. Hey, we're Power and Speed. 908-751-0211.
And good old like us on the Facebook, iTunes, share us, tell people about us. Keep us from failing.
All that stuff. We're not part of the fail army yet.
Actually, you know what's funny is because Mike has eliminated himself from the good old Facebook. Adam Carolla is doing a mad thing on podcasts. He's going to train you how to do it. He's selling a thing to teach you how to do podcasts.
That's what Adam does, dude. He makes money.
Yeah, it's
he
funny.
sells shit either airtime or whatever. That's what he does.
It's funny though. Looking at it, he's like, "Come on, this is the latest thing. Get into it. Look at how much money I'm making." I was like, "Oh."
And you know what's fun? I think this could be a little bit of a Tadism. He might not have this right because Adam forever was telling people that, hey, you want to be a podcaster and you don't like money, because like it's hard to make money. So he was always discouraging people from going that route. But I don't know. I mean,
it's not hard for us.
Oh yeah, we're loaded. Oh, wait a minute. That doesn't cover the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's funny. All the podcasts I listen to, they all do Dollar Shave Club. They all do the same.
Yeah, well, a lot of those things work in. They've got like the co-op stuff.
Yeah, it's auto-loaded shit.
Well, it's either auto-loaded or, like they pay to place the ads, and then it, you get a fraction of the ad revenue. And it's, I don't know. To me, none of that shit's worth it. It's just not. If you're, we'll
make $28 a week.
Yeah. I'd pass.
None of us shave.
That's true. That's true.
So we'd be lying.
Tad, I don't know what the fuck you got going on over there, dude. I got to get a picture of that.
He's got like chicken wings hanging from his chin.
Oh, poor Tad.
Actually, you ever watch the movie Kill Bill?
No.
No.
All right, never mind.
What are they called? Mutton chops?
That's not a mutton chop. A mutton chop doesn't hang off.
Mutton chop comes up your side like
that. Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah, well, what exactly style is that,
Yeah,
Tad?
what style is it?
Absolutely fucking none.
It looks like a pair of balls hanging off your chin. That's kind of what it looks like.
You just said you didn't watch Kill Bill, right?
No.
So it's not worth talking to you about it.
All right, moving on.
Bingo.
Hey, what do we go? Oh, so anybody do anything this weekend? Was NASCAR on?
NASCAR was on.
That's exciting.
I think NASCAR was. I didn't watch it.
I didn't either.
I know Jeff watched it. I didn't watch it. No, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about wastegates.
I bought a book.
Did you?
Yeah, I ordered it online.
Was it about wastegates?
Nope. No, it was actually about the Honda McLaren. Honda McLaren.
Do they have wastegates?
F1 car. Yeah, they do. That's all.
That's it?
No, yeah, I want to lead into wastegates.
Okay.
Tad?
Was that
What do you know about wastegates? Yeah, old. Yeah.
All right, because I was going to say Honda and McLaren aren't together anymore.
Yeah, no, they broke up a while ago.
So, at some point, I'm going to have to talk to somebody about this stuff that really knows what they're talking about. Specifically for the truck.
How about Mogul?
Yeah.
There you go. They'll call in.
I could call Alan. I talk to him more often. I need...
Wait, let me reiterate. Oh. Sorry.
There's got to...
Sound disgruntled.
It would be nice if there was like... and maybe somebody at some point that we've talked to, or it's an idea for somebody else to come on. There's got to be a relationship between how much exhaust you need to bypass, size of gate,
yep,
pressure in the exhaust system,
yep,
like all that. Like I'd be willing to bet that sizing those things is particularly important in how the car responds.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something anybody out there wants to talk about. That let us know, because for me, I guess my stupid little truck could be anywhere from 7 pounds up.
Yeah.
So if you're making 7 pounds, you're going to bypass a lot of exhaust, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, with 230Rs, you're going to be bypassing some air.
Yeah. So I don't know what that takes. So who do we know about that? Who that would know about that?
Well, one of the turbo guys would know, but I guess I'm going to have to find a wastegate. Or maybe somebody from Turbo Smart.
I'm just sick of having to learn everything.
What do you have to learn?
I got a list of shit on my phone. I swear to God.
You can't just. Can't you just call somebody and say, "Hey, how big a wastegates do I need?"
Yeah, but then you're relying on them, and hopefully the people that.
Well, this is the problem with you then.
Maybe.
No.
Maybe.
Not maybe. All right. Yeah, we'll get somebody. We'll get somebody. Tad, get on it.
Oh, God.
Get somebody from Turbo Smart on.
Me? Okay.
Oh, I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll get Turbo Smart.
That's like kind of all they do, wastegates and blowouts, right?
Yeah.
They'd be an excellent candidate, I think.
Okay. I see where this is going.
Where's it going?
Like the whole show is just like what Mike wants to learn.
That's what it
Hey,
is.
can we get a guy? I've been thinking about a helicopter. So we'll have a helicopter guy on.
The power and speed helicopter or...
Yeah, I'm not a fan of helicopters. See that one that went down New York?
Now you're just making shit up.
Good, no, that's a good point. The one
Yeah.
just went down today. 5 people died.
I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Was it yesterday or today?
Yeah, I think it was yesterday. But yeah, just flopped right down. And it didn't look that
And
bad.
the pilot survived. The 5 passengers died.
I don't know why. I guess they couldn't get out. They sunk?
They're upside down. So was pilot. So why didn't they get out? I don't know.
Yeah, the helicopter just came in and it didn't look bad and it hit a little hard.
Was it like one of those tour helicopters?
Yeah.
Bet you it was 5 fat people couldn't get out.
No, they were
How do you know they were?
California Fire and Rescue and stuff like that. They're all
that
physically
sucks.
fit people. Yeah, it was bad.
That
Yeah.
sucks.
And the thing,
I mean, it sucks no matter who it is.
thing hit the water and I guess they couldn't get out, but that sucks. Overall, it sucks. So
Yeah.
now I'm out of the helicopters. I don't want nothing to do with that.
All right.
Nope.
That's brand new though, because that's all we ever talked about.
I know. I'm not a fan of that, especially in the water.
Yeah.
Now, so that's about all I really had that I was tinkering with or thinking about all weekend. I was perusing all the various nooks and crannies of my truck on how to put these little guys in. I think I got a pretty good plan. Actually thinking about buying another truck because they don't want to not have it to drive because I like driving that one.
All right.
I drove the Excursion and it's like now you get in, it's like driving a living room around a block. It's huge.
Yeah.
It was really
Way bigger than your little truck.
way bigger than I remember it. Like I'm driving a thing around. I'm like, I drove this every day.
Yes, you did.
All right, listen to me. Bobby Dean says put some PW 46s on it. I don't know what that is. PW. Yeah, we were talking about 40s to 45s before, and that's probably what you're going to need. Dale Hitchie says wastegate rule: go too big. So we have two obvious experts advising us right now.
Well, right about now, they know a hell of a lot more than I do.
Yeah, that's true.
But it makes sense because I would think that if you're too small, you completely lose control. Like
Well, you
you
get boost
can't
creep.
hold it where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Oh, precisions.
Precisions?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know how you get PW out of precision.
Precision wastegate?
Yeah.
Nope.
That might be the part number, Tom.
Think?
PW? Yeah. Precision wastegate. Just saying.
Yeah, it could be. Anyway, so where are we going?
Bueller?
I know we're talking about helicopters and wastegates, but anyway, on to what else did you do this weekend? Anything? Just you bought a book?
I didn't buy a book this weekend. I've had it. I don't read. Do you read?
Yeah.
I don't read.
I used to.
Shut up, Ted.
Seriously, I did.
I'm
Is that
no-
before the format or after?
No, it's because before I get old now, it's like freaking trying to reach. It's like, I don't want to read it.
Yeah, I don't have too much of that.
No, you still
I
got
don't
contacts.
either. I don't either.
Yeah.
With the contacts out, my eyes are fine.
Yeah.
To read.
I'm not a
I
contact.
just can't read. I fall asleep. I've tried all kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
all kind of stuff.
Well, I found that for me, like when I'm trying to read about the stuff that I want to learn, I almost have to print it and read it.
Oh, see, I can't. That's what I can't do. I could read on the computer. Like I'll sit with my laptop or my notebook or whatever.
I'll read on this, yeah.
But
Something happens, I don't absorb it.
really,
Really. I don't know why. And I don't think it's new for me. I don't. Reading stuff online, it's nice to get, to do some research or maybe find the answer. I think the problem comes in at like when you're looking for an answer, you find the answer and you don't really commit it to memory. It's almost like it'll be there again if you go get it again.
you know what I've noticed?
Hmm.
That I don't read like as well as I should anymore.
I can't type to save my life.
I wasn't saying type, but I'm talking reading. Like if I got to read a paragraph or two, I find myself skimming over shit and not getting the whole point. And then I got to go back.
It's a long paragraph. You're like, you try
It's
to.
really weird. I think it's an age thing.
Well, to me, I've had that happen. And if I print it and read it, it's stuck.
Really?
I got it. Like I read a couple of Bill O'Reilly's books. I can tell you all about them.
Yep.
I can tell you I can remember. I can actually see the words on the page. On the computer screen, not so much. I don't know why that happens, but it's been happening to me for a long time. This isn't new. That's why I've got filing cabinets of stuff I printed to actually read. So yeah, but what I was saying is, if you go look to find a piece of information like wastegates or what have you, you'll get these, especially if you're looking at forums or resources that aren't real clear. You get these blips of information, and then you try to remember what you read and try to stitch the whole thing together. I much prefer to have it printed. So yeah, I do read. But some of this stuff, it's actually kind of hard to learn. Like there's not enough technical stuff. And then there's some white papers that get into crazy math equations that I don't have the education for. So I look at the math, I'm like, all right.
Well, don't you call Fudd up for that to explain it to you?
No, because then you don't have to talk to him.
That's number one.
I have called Fudd to ask him some engineering questions, like some math questions, like what does this mean? But for the most part, I found out that
he doesn't know anything.
A calculator will do just as good.
Yeah, calculate. Well, if you want to understand the theory, you're better off. It's no different than we talked about the tuning stuff. If you call somebody up and say, "What camshaft do I want?" Here. Well, why do I want that camshaft? The idea, the theory behind it is the more important thing. It's not just getting the answer. To me, I don't want the answer. I want the why. That's for me. So I don't know where we're going with that, but yeah,
there's a whole lot of shit talking going on in the chat room.
Yeah.
Nitro Scott, Jeff's talking shit, saying we can't ban him because he has the door code. That's good. So what do you let Jeff sneak in here at night and rub your feet or something?
Oh, shit.
Two faggots.
Well, he's got the
what? Yeah, tell me why he's got the door code.
How exactly?
Did you see the face on him? He had no idea what to say.
Because I'm ready to throw the Kimber at you.
Yeah,
Jeff has a door code because when he was here working on his car, if he comes in the back door of the shop and closes it behind him,
now you're good with the back door, huh? Okay.
You dick. Fucking guys.
Oh, Jeff, I'm not scrolling back. Come on, it's instant gratification for me.
Sorry, we just didn't do a camera for Mike's the look on Mike's face.
We should have. Yeah, we should have. It's very rare that he doesn't know what to say.
Yeah.
All right, Nitro Scott. We can ban him. He doesn't have the door code. I don't think.
I don't even know if he's allowed in New Jersey. Well, he's a liberal. They probably got a special password to get in here.
Red carpet, handshake.
Red carpet.
Whatever. Anyway, so we got a good guest tonight, too.
I talked to him a long time ago when the Gibbs stuff first started.
Uh-huh.
Long time ago. We talked about braking oils and everything else, and we did get some oils for braking.
Mm-hmm.
But this was so long ago. My God, I think it was when it first started. And at that point, and honestly, up until the time we stopped doing some of the solid cam stuff, believe it or not, it was Rotella and GM EOS.
Yeah, I remember.
For braking.
Rotella, yep.
That's all we used. And it's one of those things that everybody's had something that they used, and they've stuck with it because it worked. And God forbid they try something else and it goes bad, then they never forgive themselves. So that was part of it for us. I guess stuck in your old ways.
Yep.
I guess is the best way to say it. But no, there's a lot of interesting stuff on oils. And that goes back to, like, we were talking about all the LS motors. Like when I said to you, how come it only makes a 10 piston, for LS stuff like that, or a 5 or whatever. And you're like, they're always fine at that. If you went back, I don't know, 20 years ago, probably not even.
Mm-hmm.
You take a motor apart, it's got to go 30.
Yeah. It's got a 20 ridge at the top.
Yeah.
I know.
That truck that I took apart.
Well, dude, they put no ring pressure in anything anymore.
Is it ring pressure? Is it lubricant?
It's all of it. Everything's better.
Is it the cleanness of electronic injection versus a carburetor? Or like you said, is it all added together?
Yeah.
But I have to think that oil advancement has to be a big part of this. It has to be.
I would agree.
I mean, I seriously doubt that Mobile One has been Mobile One forever.
I don't know.
They have to make refinements in it. No.
Well, we're going to get to ask them. I mean, we should ask stuff like that. Obviously not about Mobile One. Probably ask about Driven, right?
No, well, yeah, for sure. But I mean, the oil technology in general has to have changed over time. I mean, you can't tell me that when Mobile One came out, they had it so close to right back then that it's been acceptable for this long.
I can't tell you.
They updated it.
Yeah.
But maybe this gentleman can.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we want to talk to him about Driven stuff because I'm interested in the break-in stuff.
Sure.
We've had those conversations a couple of times before, like with Keith.
Yep.
Lake, are you there, buddy?
I am.
Hey, man.
How are you?
I am well.
Welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you. How's everything down there?
Well, it's a bit chilly for us in North Carolina these days. For North Carolina, at least. I'm from Mississippi, so even being this far north is like cold. I can't imagine, everybody way up north where it's really cold. It snowed today in North Carolina.
Oh,
that's what we get for having 80-degree day in February, thinking, oh, let's go ahead and put some, pine straw out and start, fertilizing our yard and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Spring is here. Not so fast.
Well, yeah, we had like every bit of 10 inches.
Yeah.
In some
Yeah, okay.
in some places worse. So yeah, it sucks because we're farther up than you, so it definitely continues to get weirder every year.
And I guess what he got is coming our way now, right?
I guess so, because they said we could. I think it's supposed to start tonight.
Yeah,
that we could get like 3 to 5. Or
ugh,
I know,
so done.
I know. I about had it with all this.
Well, anyway, so let's talk. I don't want to go right to oil because your whole story is pretty cool. You raced your whole life. Your dad raced. He was a successful cup driver. I read about him.
Dad spent 20 years. Yeah, 20 years in that with just in NASCAR as both a driver, team owner as well.
Yep.
For at least about half that time. So yeah.
Yeah, I read about him. He made 400 starts. That's a solid career.
Sure is.
Boy, especially in the days of the owner drivers. I think there's only, I forget the number, it's only around like 100-something guys that have ever won a NASCAR race in their career, at least any of them.
Yep.
So there's all the drivers that ever raced, there's about 100 actually win a race. I forget how much narrower that list becomes to be an owner and a driver to have won the race. So only one the one, but the one as the owner driver counts pretty hard,
Yeah, I can't imagine there's an awful lot of them. because that's you're right. Like moving forward, even in quite a few years back now. That's what everything was.
Yeah,
you always heard about the owners and the people they got to drive the car. So yeah, owner driver. That's a tough deal.
How about
the cool thing is that the car that won that race, and they won at Darlington. So no knock on anybody that won a race at like Daytona or Talladega, but I think almost anybody that's been involved in racing with any length of time probably understands that your mom could probably qualify on the outside pole at Daytona 500 if the car was fast. It's just that part. Not saying there's no talent involved, but it's mostly race car. Whereas you go to the short tracks, the tracks that eat tires, places like Darlington, Rockingham, when that was still open, those are tracks you had to drive, and the driver really had to be something. And in '88, when Dad won Darlington, that was the most money he ever had as a driver. So that was the most competitive financing we ever had. And that car the chassis was built in the shop behind the house. The engine was built in that shop behind the house. There was nothing about that team or that car that wasn't just, the shop out back behind the house with the winds. Who knew what I guess was foreshadowing my career. He had an oil additive as the primary sponsor. I told her, I think Dad had 5 different oil companies as sponsors over his career. So I guess I should have known something was coming, but I never saw that coming.
That's funny.
Well, you think about that, in-house built engine and everything else.
Crazy.
Back in those days. That's insane.
Yeah. But that was the way it was back then. But to do it all and to win, and at Darlington, which is 4 completely different turns, the track surface is like sandpaper, and man, it's a big deal. It's really cool.
Was it proportionally as bad money in those days for tires? Like, was tire cost and operational cost, was it about, take the technology side out of it, but was the general cost of, say, fuel to today's dollar, tires to today's dollar? That's a hell of a lot for a guy to do on his own with just sponsors. That's not easy.
Yeah.
No, I think in that year they had $900,000 was their operating budget. And I think the car won like maybe 300,000 or 400,000 more. So they put every bit of that back into the team. Dad didn't take any of that money that the car won for himself. He put all of it back into the team. So we were racing, 1.2 million, 1.3 million. And that was competitive, top 10 points team, winning races, doing all the stuff you're supposed to do in 1988. Fast forward 20 years to 2008. I'm at Joe Gibbs Racing, and each car is running on like $18 million.
Yeah, I was going to say 14 million is what I heard back then, but yeah, 18. It's crazy.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was actually
jets. If you flew on a jet in '88, it's because you were flying Eastern Airlines.
Eastern, yeah.
You weren't flying on your own CRJ, personal, regional jet that the team owned. No.
I know so much has changed, man.
Oh yeah, it really, really has. But the funny thing is, so last week, my dad and I went to the GoPro Motorplex, which is kind of a new, few years old now. Really, really nice go-kart track they built in Mooresville. So it's a proper racetrack. Now they do have rental carts out there, and it's fun to go out there and goof on them. But it's a proper racetrack, and people have come from all over the world to race there. And so Dad's got a garage stall. Him and Ricky Rudd have garage stalls right next to each other, and they go out there and they play around with some of the modern karts with these guys. And it's funny, those kids out there, they don't really know who Dad and Ricky are. They're just these old guys out there racing with them.
Yeah. Like legends, right?
So we're out there, because I decided I needed to knock some rust off. It's been a couple of years since I raced. I've been so busy with my day job, doing oil stuff, I haven't had a chance to go race. And this coming weekend, me and Dad are going down to Barnesville, Georgia, for a vintage karting race. And I'm telling you right now, vintage karting is every bit as fun as you might think it sounds. These are old 70s era two-strokes running on methanol. There's no sidebars. There's no front and rear bumper stuff. These things are death traps. They're wicked fast. They're incredibly fun. It's awesome. It's racing like the old days.
What they have, like the old McCullough two-strokes?
Yeah.
Oh, this is even beyond that. The McCullough classes are like the slow classes.
Oh, right.
We're running the Italian stuff, like the 135cc two-strokes, on methanol, turn 14,000 RPM. Thing makes probably about 30 horsepower.
Wow.
It's crazy. Oh, they're quick. I mean, there's a guy who races with us. The fastest class is called C Open. So that's twin 135cc two-strokes on methanol. The cart weighs about 400-something pounds, maybe. It doesn't weigh that much. I bet the cart weighs, because two people can pick it up really easy. So the cart probably weighs maybe 300 pounds, maybe, with the engine and everything in it, and it's got these two big giant monster motors on them. One of the guys that races with us, I was saying, they do vintage racing car preparation for different bunch of people. One of the cars they prepare and maintain is one of the 6-wheel Tyrrell Formula One cars for some higher up guy at Ford Motor Company. He drives that car in the vintage races for the guy that owns the car. And he told us the only thing he ever drives that comes close to the power to weight ratio of the vintage Formula One car is that vintage C-Open go-kart.
Wow.
Wicked, wicked fast. But anyway, so the point I got way off my track here on my story. So I decided to go out to the GoPro place to go knock some rust off so we can be ready for these karts. So we were over there goofing around last week, and a guy comes over. It's one of the pit stalls down and says, I want to introduce your dad to somebody. It's Emerson Fittipaldi.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a real name.
Sure is.
Yeah. So here's Fittipaldi out there. His son, apparently he's got like 5 kids or something. So his youngest son, who's like 11 or 12 or something, is out there. And he's basically cutting his teeth in go-karts and everything. They just moved him here to North Carolina to start racing at the track out there and everything. And we're sitting here, Dad and Emerson are sitting there chatting. about racing in the old days and all this. And Fittipaldi's basically said the one thing about racing is always about the sponsorship. If you don't have the sponsorship, you can't be competitive.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's, again, it's a long way to go back to what we were saying a few minutes ago about, with the cost of money and the racing and the sponsorships and what this is a Gibbs now versus back then. And here's a guy like Fittipaldi, that's won at everything. First thing he says,
yep,
all about the money.
Well, that's
either you have it or you don't.
It's how it is everywhere.
Yep.
How long you been away from Gibbs, from the team?
Oh, about 8-9 months now, I guess. I mean, so I still had an office at the Gibbs shop until recently. So even though when we spun the business off, separate from Joe Gibbs Racing, 4 or 5 years ago, so that they could go attract a sponsor, because that was the reason why we separated Driven from Joe Gibbs. The product originally was Joe Gibbs Driven, and then we decided to separate it and make it just Driven, so that Joe Gibbs could compete for oil company sponsorships, like the Shell, Pennzoil deal, or other things. Because at the end of the day, that race team can operate unless there's dollars coming in from sponsors.
Yep.
And for a long time, Gibbs and NASCAR was in a situation where there was more sponsors wanting to be involved than there were cars, so that you could kind of pick what you wanted. They could pick what was the right fit. Then those days ended.
Yep.
And you had to take whatever was going to come in.
Yeah.
We could write that check, and we knew that our company, even though we were not big like a Shell or something like that, we did pose an obstacle.
Yeah, we'd still get in the way.
Getting that kind of sponsorship.
Yep.
So we needed to get out of the way. But the race team still wanted access to the product. They still wanted the technical support. The reasons we developed it in the first place was to have that chemical engineering resource within the building to help the race cars go faster. We started it not to sell a bunch of oil. We started it to make the cars go faster. They still wanted that part. So I was still there till about 9 months ago. And then basically the thing's just grown and grown and grown. They're like, hey, we need this space for the motocross team. I'm like, okay, I still live in Concord. I'm over there about once a week, help them out with stuff, as we can. But, yeah, so still somewhat affiliated.
Good.
Well, what we should talk about is, oils and
Yeah.
the hows and whats and wheres and why.
Yeah. Of
And
course.
I guess we'll,
Are you sure?
yeah, I think we should.
Talked for a long time about that.
I guess if we start from the engine, I guess the most important thing that everybody's going to ask is braking stuff. And I know that when I had talked to you years ago, that's what it was all about, was about braking oils to make, things last, make things seat. Where are we at today? Like in relation to differences between consumer oils and I don't want to use the term boutique oil, but an oil specifically designed to do what we're trying to do.
Well, that's really kind of the key word, is application specific. Yeah, you can go to the parts store, you can go to Walmart or whatever, and there's going to be a big giant shelf full of oils and all kinds of different things. And where people typically kind of get off on the wrong foot, and not because, for any reason other than no one's probably ever told them what the right way to do it is. The wrong first step is choosing a brand first. I've always used XYZ brand. Or, my dad or so-and-so told me to use XYZ brand. If you start with that, you've kind of started the process the wrong way. You put the cart in front of the horse, if you will. What you want to do is you want to look at the application. What do I have? Do I have an engine? Do I have a transmission? Do I have a rear differential? Because chemically, they're going to need different things. A lot of people don't realize it, but a 50, grade motor, like a 2050 motor oil, is really the same viscosity if you measure it through, the lab type measuring device as a 75, 90 gear oil. The numbers are different, so people wouldn't put engine oil in their transmission or vice versa. because they knew a long time ago that chemically gear oil is different than an engine oil, and you don't want to mix them up because you'll blow stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
So we gave them different names for the viscosity, so the gear oil numbers are higher and different than the engine oils, so people wouldn't mix them up. And so where I'm trying to go with that is, yes, you've got motor oil, gear oil, and I'd say motor oil and gear oil is for a good example. Chemically, they might be the same viscosity, but also at the same time, chemically, the additive package is really, really different. So that the best gear oil in the whole world is still garbage for your engine, and vice versa.
Okay.
So the whole trick is to understand the application. Am I breaking in a new cam? Okay, well then I need an oil designed for break-in, because chemically to break in a part is different than what you use after. And if that concept is still kind of new to you, or you kind of question the thought process on that, is who wants to go paint their car and not put down primer first?
Sure.
Not going to work very well. You got to have primer down first to get the clear and the color to stick properly. And that's what you're doing with break-in oil. It's like that primer. You're basically establishing that anti-wear film, getting the parts to seat in properly, get your rings to break in properly. If you don't get the rings to bed in, you're always going to have blow-by, and you're never going to make as much power as you could, and the rings aren't going to last as long. And your oil consumption is going to be higher. A flat tappet cam, for good or bad, how you want to look at it, if you get the break-in wrong, and it just dies on you in 20 minutes or so.
Yep.
It just dies right there. If you get the break-in wrong in a roller cam engine, you may not know about it for a couple thousand, 4,000, even 10,000 miles, and then the lifters fall out of the thing, and you're cussing your engine builder, saying, well, he's no good, and these parts are junk and all that. And it's like, well, what did you do? Did you break it in right? Well, I just put in the synthetic, that so-and-so told me to put in. And when did you change it? About 5,000 miles ago.
Yeah.
Why? Well, that's because they said they can do it. You seen the TV commercials? Mini Kevin Harvick said I can change the oil once a year. Well, that's the problem, is that, that's not a break-in oil. Even though it wasn't a flat tappet cam, you started breaking the rings. There's still all this stuff. This breaking in, the amount of wear debris that's created during break-in, 10 times higher than the next 10 hours combined.
Makes sense.
Let's think in for a second.
Yeah, it does.
It's
It's a lot.
Hour break-in.
Yep.
There's 10 times more wear created than the next 10 hours combined.
That makes sense. Some of it needs to be created, right?
Yeah, it has to. I mean,
Yep.
the parts have to get made it in. Anybody that's taken any kind of, gone to any kind of tech seminar or watched anything about honing and surface finish, I mean, parts are rough. You can make them smooth and they can look pop, they can look shiny, but there's still peaks and there's still valleys, and you want those peaks to be flattened out so they can carry the load. If everything on your part in your engine, if every load bearing surface is pointy on the tops, it's like doing push-ups on your fingertips. One, that hurts, and two, you can't do it as easy on your palm.
Yep.
You spread the load out when you can do it in your palm. That break-in process is essentially getting it where you can do push-ups, bear that load, if you will, on the palms over a wider surface area that increases the longevity of the part, decreases the wear on the part, and usually improves performance of the friction between the two surfaces.
Are you
rougher surfaces, higher friction.
Do you have this is probably a loaded question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you have a preferred break-in method? And I know you guys have break-in oil, but for domestic V8 engines, I think the makeup of the cylinder walls is pretty similar in all of them now. Is there something you could recommend to our listeners that is a good general ring break-in package or system?
Yeah, I'd say for essentially any engine. We've tried that. We own a bunch of different engines, everything from single-cylinder engines to V8s and other stuff like that. I recommend 10 minutes at about 2,800 to 3,000 RPM. Shut the motor off, let it cool down for, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, like that. Fire it back up, run another 10 minutes, 2,800 RPM. Shut it off. Change the oil filter. Get that crap out. Because filters do filter oil, but they also, some of those stuff can still circulate through there. Take the filter off, put a new filter on, top the oil level off. At that point, either if you've got an engine dyno, or if you're just in the car, begin to get it warmed back up, bring it back up to temperature, begin to increase the load steadily. Go from, basically if you're on the dyno, you begin to make power runs. You don't go all the way to full power first or full speed first. You kind of go halfway up and then just kind of keep working it up. But and the same thing on the street, you want to go, basically make almost like passes like you would at the drag strip. Like a pass first, and then maybe 3/4 pass, and then a full pass. You want to kind of eke up on it, but you have to have cylinder pressure, which means you have to have peak torque in order to get the rings to seat. If you sit there and run the engine, even at high engine speeds, without any load applied to the engine, you're never going to get the rings to seat in. You're just going to glaze the bores, and you won't get the maximum ring seal you're hunting for. So if you do that process, and maybe that's another half hour, maybe even 45 minutes worth of running, then change the oil. Get the filter out of there again. Because, again, that first hour, you created 10 times more debris than you're going to create in the next 10. So the most important thing is to get that stuff out of the engine. Flat tap it, roller cam, doesn't matter. It's going to, if there's contaminants in the oil, which there's going to be from break-in, which you want that stuff out of the engine.
So that
filter to get the small stuff.
So that's it for the break-in oil, or do you put break-in oil back in it?
I put break-in oil back in it, and then I would put another hour or so of engine runtime on it. Be it a test and tune day at the drag strip, or maybe a test day out at the road race or circle track or whatever. Then put the synthetic in it and go from there.
All right. So you're saying, okay, well, we got that recorded so anybody can, go back and listen.
Yeah, because a couple of people actually asked that.
Yeah.
Like how long on break-in oil and when do you change it out? But that's
ideally, you want to kind of get it out, the first fill out within about an hour. Then you want to put about another hour or so of engine runtime on it. And then you're able to go. You can put more on it. And if you're running, say, something like Nicosil, something like that, you're going to want to put even more time on it. The harder the material, the longer it's going to take to break in. You can run the break-in oil up to 10 hours. I've got boat guys and stuff where it's not easy to do it. So you can keep it in there longer, but you don't want to keep it in there any longer than you have to.
Okay.
But you want to get at least a couple hours total time on the engine, on break-in oil, to make sure that everything breaks in right.
And with load at some point.
Yep.
At the recommended points, yeah.
Now, do you guys have different oils, whether it be a flat tappet or a not flat tappet, like a mechanical cam or a roller cam?
Not so much. Essentially, if the oil is capable of handling a flat tappet, it can pretty much handle everything else.
Okay.
The higher level of ZDP that you need, the zinc in the oil that you need for flat tappet is beneficial for other things, especially really high spring pressure roller cam engines where, let's say, the roller itself doesn't need it, but the axle where the needle bearings are running into it, it could kind of like that to keep it from, getting galled or any kind of welding going on there. Push rod tips especially, big drag race motors. Typically the roller cams are really aggressive and they may not have roller problems, but they'll have push rod tip problems. And you can solve that by having the proper level of ZDP, proper break-in, all those same kind of steps. Basically, all the flat tappet stuff works just as good in a roller cam application as it does in a flat tappet.
Yeah, a lot of people found that out, how important that was, right? Like, because all of a sudden it probably guys that were more in the know in the oil business knew. Regular people, we didn't know. All of a sudden, zinc's gone. And you start having problems like that you never had.
Yep.
And like, where did this come from? And it was.
I never forget Danny Jessel. Those guys called up Mark Cronquist one time. Who's the head engine builder at Gibbs, and Gibbs were using the Jessel roller lifters, and they said, "What are y'all doing with our lifters?" Of course, Mark's thinking, "Oh, well, we're in trouble. What have we done?" And he says, just treating them like we do a flat tappet or whatever. We break them in the same way we do the flat tappet stuff, run the same oils, or we do anything wrong?" And they were like, "No, we needed to know because your lifters live longer than everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the same ones they send to everybody else.
Yep.
But no one else's live as long as yours does. So y'all are doing something different that no one else is doing." And the reality wasn't because we were smart. It's because, the dyno program and everything was set up to do flat tappet stuff. And it was just easier for the guys in the shop to do it the same way they did a flat tappet.
Yep. I'm sure at that point.
So there is a big story there. If you do stuff right, it tends to last longer.
I'm sure at that point Mark stopped talking because he wouldn't have told Danny what they were doing.
No. Yeah, they're like, okay, now we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't tell me anything more.
Yep. I know Mark a little bit.
Yeah, but we had exactly that actually with some of the stuff Jessel was testing at our place before they actually got the dyno.
Yep.
And there were push rod tip problems. There were all kinds of things. And
oh, I remember those.
Yeah, and it was all back to the big change that all of a sudden happened in the oils. They just pulled it out of kind of everything, and it happened pretty quickly. And then all across, like everybody in the industry that I talked to, were two things. The lifter manufacturer, I guess it was Johnson, they closed up, and then everybody had to use it was a Stanadine. I don't remember what they were, but they closed up. There were no tool steels. There were in the cup stuff, but there wasn't in the regular guy stuff.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, between those two things, like everybody lost camshafts all year long, and everybody had to figure it out. And a big portion of it was the zinc being removed from the oil. So all the stuff that used to break the motor in with didn't work anymore. So if anything, that it gives additional validity to using a break-in oil like from Driven rather than an off-the-shelf oil now, for sure.
Somebody just asked a really good question, Lake, and I want to ask this to you because it kind of makes sense why it's being asked. One of our guys noticed that some competitors of Drag Week ran break-in oil during Drag Week. I guess maybe thinking that it could help them. Guys kind of get freaky over Drag Week, thinking that there's crazy loads on everything, and we really don't care.
You're driving a car.
Yeah, it's just a car to us. But is that thinking valid? I mean, can break-in oil be better in that situation?
No.
Okay. That's what I would have thought.
I mean, reality, and I hate to say it that way, but break-in oil is designed to allow the part to wear. It wants it to wear.
Yep.
Now it's a controlled wear. It is doing it in a way that is designed to not let the part fail, but it is designed to try to help it wear at a controlled rate, wear just enough in the right way so that you're kind of polishing that surface, like I said before.
Yep.
But not more than that. As soon as that part's done, you need to go to the race oil. The race oil's got the better load carrying additives. I don't like that word load carrying, but because there's no real terminology for that. There's no way to measure that properly. There's better wear reducing, friction reducing additives in the full on race oil for after that, and you're better off with that. You'll have less wear total if you use break-in oil to break it in. Post break-in, go with the race oil.
Okay.
Well, that's actually kind of one of the things I had written down here. Transition from break-in oil to a power production oil, and then in the middle of that, what would gauge which oil you'd recommend for, say, longevity versus power production versus power output, or is it more based on engine design? And again, this is probably dated, but the lightest beat up oils we had were what you would use, to make a record pass.
Yep.
Now you can kind of buy them like that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember
you don't have to wear them out.
I remember the guys putting trans fluid in their engine.
Oh yeah.
To make hits, back in the day, which is probably a disaster, right?
It was light. There wasn't a lot of light oils. They knew that, when you're the thing that gets people. It's one of my favorite slides to show when we do do seminars, is to show people the actual measured viscosity of a 0W5, viscosity grade oil, like the Pro Stock guys running everything. It looks like water.
Yep.
But at room temperature, because that's all that hot as the oil gets, is basically 100 degrees. The hottest that Pro Stock oil will ever get is 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Really?
At 100 degrees Fahrenheit, oh yeah, at Indy, the hottest that oil gets is 100 degrees.
Wow.
They don't heat the oil up. They chill the water in the engine. I mean, the water's 60, 70 degrees, and they go to make a hit.
Mm-hmm.
6.57 seconds, maybe.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Fast, and they're done. It's never gets over 100 degrees, maybe 105 at the max. Well, at that temperature, that zero weight water-looking oil is the same viscosity as a 10W30 is at 212 degrees Fahrenheit.
So it probably gets you there sooner, is what it comes down to.
That's all it was. In the old days, when all the guys had was 2050 or straight 50 as race oils, and the guy, Grumpy and those guys started getting smart and putting in, straight 30, or some guys put in tranny fluid. Well, that tranny fluid is essentially like a 0.20 or a 5.20, right? The fact they only ran it for 7 seconds when they were, heads up, or back then it wasn't 7 seconds, but, they made one hit, when they were heads up and had to win. That's all it was, is you made the oil lighter so that you reduced the drag on the pump. You reduced the windage through the crankcase. That's why you ran lower oil levels. One of the funniest things we've ever done on the dyno, and we had to do it like 3 times. We were out at Ron Shaver's shop in California, and those are guys who know what they're doing, right? I mean, Ronnie and those guys, they're no dummies. They've been around the block. I mean, they built, countless, championship winning race engines, outlaw racing, sprint stuff, and everything else. And 1 quart of oil in a small block Chevrolet 383 with a stock pan. So you got stock block, stock pan, stroker crankshaft. It's a 7-quart pan. Put in 7 quarts of oil, run the engine. Drain 1 quart of oil out. This is on a 450 horsepower motor. Any guesses how much power it was difference? 1 quart of oil?
In a stock pan?
Stock pan.
Stock pan that was like topped off. I was going to say 15, but I'm going to go more with like 25.
On the money.
Yeah.
25 horsepower.
Yep.
And think about how many people really know what their oil level is. Really watch it close. I mean, put in the oil and then come back in 20 minutes and check the level. Because it takes time for the oil to get down.
Mm-hmm.
The heavier oil you use, the more time it takes to get down in there. And those are the kind of things where, people call up, what's the fastest oil? I'm like, hold on, let's not talk about the oil first. Let's focus on the application. Again, back to where we started. It's not about the brand of the oil or what's the chemicals of the oil. Let's look at the application first. What are you running? How are you running it? What's the temperature of the oil? What's oil temperature? What are your bearing clearances? Now we can start trying to figure out the viscosity. Then we'll get the additive package right, based if it's a car that's driven to the racetrack is going to be, and then raced, is going to be different than an oil that's for a car that's trailered to the racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
So we all, as all know, people that have cars that they drive to the racetrack, they typically drive other places besides the racetrack. And they're pump gas cars more times than not. And so when you've got a car that's a street driver, even though it might run sub 10 seconds at the racetrack, if it's a pump gas car, you go to car shows and all that kind of stuff, you're typically talking about longer oil change intervals. You get more fuel dilution in a lot of cases, runs a little hotter. That's going to be a different oil than essentially the exact same engine that runs on race gas that's hauled to the racetrack and then towed to the starting line and ran. Totally different. So you got to know the application to then begin to choose the right chemistry to fit the application. And then you start talking about what brand you're going to use. what brand do you trust to deliver that right chemistry for the application? And then, oh yeah, by the way, when we're looking at the application, let's make sure we're not missing any low-hanging fruit like oil level, stuff like that, oil temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure we get the right things that are the easy stuff first, because that's where there's going to be more power in those things than there are in just changing from brand A to brand B, typically.
Gotcha. And I guess there's a whole nother side to this conversation, like you had brought up race fuel or street fuel. Well, now we have ethanol-based fuels. We have people that are running, alcohol for some of the circle track stuff. So it even gets a little more complex than just application of what the engine is like. It's also what's going to be fueling it and what your oil change interval is. So there's even more to it. You guys have any recommendation, street car to race car, as far as, are there differences you'd recommend for a different oil for a different fuel? Like, let's say a guy's got a sprint car and he's running alcohol. What, same oil or just more frequent change interval, or what would it be?
We kind of compromise on that one. I mean, the tribologist in me says you want to run the best chemistry you can for every application, regardless of what it costs you to do it. Because in the end, oil is cheaper than engines.
Mm-hmm.
Oil is cheaper than camshafts and valve springs. And if this one oil can make that part live longer, then if you do the math, then it's worth running the better oil. But that's not real world. There's some places where the environment is very dirty. The tracks are really sandy or whatever, so you're going to get a lot of dirt in the oil. So even if the oil itself is chemically robust and isn't breaking down, but if there's a sufficient level of dirt in the oil's got to be changed. And then that's going to end up impacting the longevity of the engine more so than the oil does, because it was dirty. So we kind of go, say, like a sprint car guy, we'll tell him, hey, why don't you run our semi-synthetic? 2050 or 1040 based on the bearing clearances you're running and everything. Run one of those. And you can change the filter after every race. And then after every 3 races, just change the oil. Because after 3 races, the oil is going to have enough contaminant in it just from the environment you're running in, as well as the fuel dilution, that it's going to be time to change the oil. Now, there are guys who still run our full synthetic in 410 sprints, and they're running 5, 6, 7 races on the oil. But they're able to keep the air that's coming into the engine really clean. They work really hard on their air box, and they're not running high flow filters that allow a lot of dirt to get in. They're really methodical about keeping the dirt from getting in the engine. That allows the oil to live longer. They're not diluting the oil really heavy with fuel when they're warming it up. They've got their low speeds, everything figured out good, so they're able to get the engine warmed up without, basically killing it with fuel. And then the tank allows it to evaporate out clearly. So there are exceptions to the rule, but more times than not, the dirtier the environment, the more fuel dilution. We kind of go off the synthetic toward the semi-synthetic with more frequent oil changes just to be safe.
Okay.
Do you find that fuel injected stuff is actually provides less fuel contamination?
EFI, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a real double-edged question, because some of the nastiest shit is the mechanical injection.
I meant EFI. My bad.
Yeah, I figured you did. Mechanical injection, no, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Although there are some guys that have their mechanical injection tune-ups better than carburetor guys do. I mean, there's some carburetor guys that just killed me. It's just too fat at idle, and it just loads the thing up, and it's pretty rough on everything. But for the most part, I think everybody's gotten better and better. From the carburetor guys to the mechanical fuel injection guys, especially EFI, they get them really, really good. Racing's so competitive anymore that the low-hanging fruit's all taken. I mean, most cases, most places you race, guys are on top of their game pretty good, and you're not just going to come waltzing up in there and, find these diamonds just laying on the ground right next to them they didn't see. It may not say it doesn't happen, but it happens pretty rarely anymore. people are on top of their stuff, and people are smart. They work hard.
Yeah, technology and information sharing has leveled a lot of this pretty quick.
Oh, I mean, you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
So, actually, Mike, I didn't even tell you this. Lake goes to Dubai to the show I go to every year, and he's going to be the oil provider this year. It looks like I got to get you the details on that stuff, but that'll be a good deal for you.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, that's a cool show over there, and I think it's a neat thing. You know, guys building engines. Last year, one of the guys who was doing it came over and asked me, said, "Wait, you got any oil here? Because all they have is like 2560 or something."
Yeah,
you know, I need a lighter. You know, I'm like, yeah, I'll help you out. We got a couple of quarts here and there, and you know, let's do this and put together a package. You know, that's just fun.
It is. It's a good show. It's very cool.
Some good old Kendall Green 2050. Remember that stuff? Wow.
God,
we used to use that for wrist pins.
Just so everybody's aware, I have to say this: oil is dyed to make it a color.
Well, what color is it normally?
Green, it's because they put green dye in it. If it's red, it's because they put red dye in it. The natural color of oil, when it comes out of the refinery, is clear, like water.
Really? It's that clear? Like not even amber?
Yep.
Really?
Nope. When the base oil, before you put additives in it, when it comes out of the refinery, it's clear. Now, when you put in like stuff like zinc and some of the other things in there, it'll become kind of a yellowish amber color. But any color beyond that, red, blue, green, whatever, that's a dye. There are no magic mystery molecules that make the oil better, that make it a certain color. That's just marketing crap that somebody came up with.
Now, I remember years ago, there was an oil that had graphite in it.
Yeah.
And that, I think it was Arco Graphite.
Dude,
and it was
I still have a bunch of that. It is black.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
Is that what it was? Arco Graphite? That's what sticks in my head.
No, mine was a little cottage guy that was making it in Pennsylvania, but same thing. I forget his name. I'll bring
We're the old guys, dude. This is terrible.
Yeah. Hey, you know, real quick, what do you know about that graphite stuff? Is it a disaster?
Well, yeah. I mean, anything that's solid you put in oil, from, you know, graphite to, you know, Teflon and all this nano stuff anymore, anything that's a solid reduces the surface area between the contact points. It might temporarily reduce friction, but it's going to increase the load on the surface, which is going to lead to subsurface cracking of the metallurgy, which is going to lead to pitting and then spalling. There's a reason that all of that stuff is not used by like GM and Ford in their factory fill oils, because it does not work in engine oils long term.
And that's a great argument.
And I know that pisses off a bunch of people about stuff, but they're just not.
No, it's a good argument, because those guys, they put in the time and the investment to figure out what works. You know, we used to we used to talk about the OEMs like they were a bunch of idiots, but they certainly are not anymore.
No.
They haven't been for a while.
I don't think that. I mean, they did do dumb shit, but for the most part, they had a lot behind what they were doing.
Yeah, always.
Oh yeah, I think we're all guilty of being stupid and trying stuff and not always seeing how things are interconnected. I think we're probably all guilty of that. I've had the fortune for the last probably 3 years now of working on some projects with the Oak Ridge National Lab, which is, you know, part of the U.S. National Lab group, where like Argonne, Livermore in California. Oak Ridge is kind of famous because that's where they did all the uranium enrichment for the Manhattan Project. They actually have a museum there where they have replicas of Fat Man and Little Boy, and, you know, all the bombs from World War II, and that was basically one of the places to help, you know, build the nuclear program for the United States. In fact, the longest operating nuclear power plant in the world, or nuclear pile, is right there at Oak Ridge, and they do some really cool stuff. And we've been able to work with them on some projects with them and General Motors on advanced fuel economy and combustion technologies the last few years, and I'm telling you, those dudes know what they're doing.
I'm sure of
I
it.
mean, they may move at the pace of a government or, multinational corporation, which isn't as fast as us racers sometimes. But when it comes to resources and technology, those dudes know what they're doing.
And I guess the one thing that just popped through, not to change this, and I hate to ask this question because we just kind of talked about it, but additives.
I was just going to.
I mean, the guys are like, what about like things like Slick 50 and everything else? I always told the story about the friction wedge guy. There was a friction wedge guy that was a Teflon one, I think, came in, and he's got a torque wrench and a ball bearing and all kinds of stuff. And, my father was, crafty and he used to love breaking balls. I mean, he was probably as bad as I was. And the guy comes in with this little bearing and a little wheel, and you pull on the torque wrench and you put your oil in it. And now here's what a little bit of our additive does. My dad goes, hang on a minute. Let me go get something. He goes in the back, comes back. He's got a little oil cap full, and it was gear oil. And he dumped it in there. It was every bit as good as the shit.
Yeah.
And my dad's like, look, this isn't what a motor really has to do. Now, that was my first memory of additives, but I don't know, I don't want to trash Lucas or Slick 50 or any of these guys, but I can't imagine much of them are worth anything given a proper engine oil, are they?
I think your father taught you well. I mean, that's just the whole thing. All these little testing devices, they're not engines. And case in point, like your father showed, was very wise. It's, okay, that's not what an engine does. Here, I can put some gear oil in there, and it'll do them better. Do you want to change your oil and put gear oil in there? No. It's not made for the application. And the problem I have with off-the-shelf additives, I don't care what brand it is, it's playing Russian roulette with your engine. It's just chemical Russian roulette. When you formulate an oil, like for example, one of our race oils has 14 different components in that oil. 14. And it's a balancing act to get them all to work together. It's the formulator's job is like the conductor in the symphony. Now, they got to get all the different instruments to all come together to make the music. They're all doing their own part, but together they make the music. If they're off tune, out of sequence, it sounds like crap. That's what happens when you put an additive into an already formulated oil. You're throwing off the balance. Now, what will happen is you'll have one guy that says, hey, man, I use XYZ additive, and I gained 5 horsepower. Well, in that case, it kind of worked with whatever he put it in and maybe got the symphony in tune, a little bit. But there's another guy that's going to say, I use XYZ additive, and I lost 5 main bearings. What gives? They're not lying, but in one case, you change the balance for the bad, and you got a bad result. One case, you change it for the good, and it worked out. So just like that Dirty Harry thing, how lucky do you feel there, punk? It's you have X amount of money tied up in your engine. If you go monkeying around putting an additive in there, are you really sure you're confident in what's going on? And who's to say that the oil itself that you've been using doesn't change? Because if you think the oil you're buying today is the same stuff you bought 10 years ago, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona for you, pal. It's nowhere near the same stuff it was 10 years ago. And the one thing you can count on in the chemical industry is change. Every time they change those little starburst or the little API donut in the back of the bottle, guarantee what's inside it changed. Not the same.
I guess the moral of the additive story isn't kind of what I was told. If you have the right good oil to begin with, you got no need to be messing with an additive.
Yeah,
There's no reason for it.
Dude, I remember so many additives. I remember one that was called Energy Release. And
I remember that stuff.
I think it was based on chlorine.
Ooh.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Chlorinated stuff. Yeah.
And I remember getting samples of this stuff because they used to send us everything. And a buddy of mine owned a repair shop in East Brunswick, and he had this noisy air conditioner belt wheel thing, right? And he needed some kind of oil. And I said, man, I got this stuff that they want us to try, blah, blah, blah. Try this. So he takes a little bottle of it and squirts some on it, seized the thing. And, it just killed the belt. It killed everything. I don't know. I agree. Get the right oil. No additives.
Wait. I say it the opposite way you said it, which is this. If you think your oil needs something else to do the job, you got the wrong oil.
Yeah.
You just need a different oil. Get an oil that's designed for the application, and it will do the job. If not, go find another one that can do the job.
But their marketing department sure must be happy because they're doing a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
I mean,
buddy. I mean, it's people like to customize things. I mean, look at the industry we're in. People love to customize it. They love to kind of put their own fingerprint and stuff. So that's where the additives come in. Somebody says, I've got my own little recipe. Okay.
Well, I can tell you this. I know one company, and they have a colorful oil. I'm not going to say their name, but I know I knew some people that worked there, and their additive stuff was where they made all the money. The oil was somewhere to put their additives.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean that's where the profit was.
Well, there's marketing and there's science, and sometimes those two overlap, and sometimes they don't. I like the science side. That's I grew up with my dad, and the way we raced, everything we were working on our stuff right up to the point they say time to go, green flag, right? You gotta be in pit lane. We're just constant tinkerers, trying to make stuff better.
Well, I said it earlier. I think the only thing that we ever used for an additive, or I ever used, personally, was EOS. That was the only thing we ever used. And that we did that. We didn't even do that at first. We did it when this whole cam problem occurred, because we were looking for anything.
Yep.
Well, yeah, everybody was, grabbing for straws. Cause, if you knew this, if you just went and got 2050 off the shelf, tried to break in a cam, it was going to die. So if you grabbed a bottle of EOS and threw it in and it lived most of the time, you were good. I mean, until you found out that there was things like braking oil that would make it in where it never had a problem, you didn't know. People didn't know. Because, literally before 2004, there wasn't braking oil. It didn't exist.
That's about, I was going to say, that's probably right about right. Cause I think we started having trouble in maybe 01 or 02. And that was probably when they started pulling zinc. That was probably when it happened.
02 was the year they dropped the zinc level down and increased the detergent content in the oil. So that's where the zinc detergent balance changed. That was API SL. And that was a bit of a change from where it had been before. And then in 2004, they went to API SM, and they dropped the zinc even lower, and that's when the floodgates opened. And Gibbs had the problem back in the 90s, late 90s, when they had first started monkeying with the oil levels a little bit, and they developed the braking oil. So when it kind of became clear that the rest of the industry was having this break-in problem, and we got this stuff sitting here we've been using by that point in time, 5-6 years, it had fixed all of our problems. We were like, well, heck, here, let's go sell this stuff to these guys. And I remember the first time we went to the PRI show, people came by and laughed at us. They're like, who wrote Coach Gibbs a check? Because there's no way this is real, right? There's no way that, I'm like, no, that's Mark Cronquist. That's the head engine guy. This isn't a marketing deal. This is like for real, the engine shop. We're here trying to let you know that we've got stuff that fixes that problem. And then about 6-7 months later, all those guys that came by and gave us business cards and swiped their card at PRI, they were all buying braking oil as fast as we could make it because it was working. It was getting the job done. And that's kind of where this whole thing came from. So it's kind of funny to see over time, those changes in the industry were, back in the 80s, you just went and got some, 2050 Valvoline race oil and put it in, and it was good. Had plenty of zinc and everything was great. And then by 2002, there was problems.
Yeah.
Big problems.
And all the engine builders that didn't do flat tappet stuff, they probably weren't as exposed to it as much as guys that did a lot of flat tappet stuff.
Definitely weren't.
I mean, so, there's probably a bunch of people who came by and said, hey, you don't need any shit like that. Flat tapper guys are like, hell yeah, we'll try anything.
Yeah.
Like crackheads trying to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey,
yeah,
like I got.
It was until later. It was later before the roller cam guys started getting it, and that's when the zinc levels went even lower, and the spring pressures went even higher, and then you had guys burning push rod tips, and that's when you first heard it. It was like, wow, this is everything. It's not just flat tapping guys. Even the roller cam guys are having problems now too.
Yeah. I got a specific question from a listener, and I apologize. I don't know your line, so I don't know if this is even right, but you guys have a driven LS30 oil.
Yes, we do.
He wants to know if that's labeled because it's for stock LS, I guess, Chevy bearing clearances, or is it just a name? And is it better than Mobile One? That's a lot to answer, but have at it.
Well, so the LS30 was designed for GM LS-based engines with the stock oiling system. So the stock bearing clearances, stock oil pump. And the reason for that is GM designed that engine, the flow rate of the oil, because proper lubrication is the right oil at the right place, at the right time, and the right amount. So there's more to lubrication than just the lubricant itself. It's the whole system. So when they designed the flow rate of that pump and everything in that system to flow a 5W30, you need a 5W30. If you put a 1550 into an engine like that with that gerotor style pump at high crankshaft speed, because the pump's on the crank, it will actually cause cavitation in the pump. And the stock lifters, they're hydraulic. They need a proper flow rate of oil. Too thick oil, they won't pump up, or they'll over pump, or sometimes make noise because you can't get enough oil in the lifter. So again, the system's designed for a 530. So we developed a 530 that had some of the race oil characteristics, like better shear stability, higher viscosity index, which is basically just kind of chemical buzzwords, but essentially you're making the oil more durable in high temperature, high stress, high pressure environments. Higher, because a lot of the ways that they get fuel economy off of the passenger car oils, which answer the back half of the question, why is it better than what GM recommends or other brands you can buy off the shelf, 5W30? Well, those oils are designed for fuel economy. So they're actually designed to thin out in use. Just like back to our discussion with the guys putting transmission fluid in the engine versus straight 50 in the old days. They did it to make the oil thinner, to make more power. To get more fuel economy, they're trying to make the oil thinner. So they're designing a 530 to thin out, to get fuel economy. We designed LS30 to not thin out, like a race oil. Race oils are designed to not thin out. Whatever the viscosity is new, it stays there. It doesn't change. That way you're not shooting at a moving target. So that's what makes it different.
Okay, that answered it all.
Good.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Okay.
That's really good information.
So is it pretty much that the LS oiling system was designed to be very efficient around what it did? Like, it sounds like there's not really a lot of oil pump headroom. Kind of.
No, there's not. They made it where they recognized from their racing experience that windage is something that kills you on horsepower, and so for better fuel economy, that they understood they needed to have a system that was pretty frugal with you got your oil where it was supposed to be, when you needed it, and enough of it, but not more than you needed.
Yeah, and that all ties back to the conversation about taking a quart of oil out of an oil pan. That if you took 1 quart of oil out and it was worth that much on a dyno, imagine the amount of effect. Now, obviously, it wouldn't be that at low RPM,
Yep.
but the effect on efficiency driving down the road. So it's pumping, windage, anything.
Yep.
So yeah, makes complete sense.
Yep.
We do a lot of work with Ben Strader out at EFIU. Great guys, by the way. If you've never had him on the show,
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's been on
Few times.
several times. Great guy.
Oh yeah, Ben's great. Well, we've got an LT1 direct injection engine. The modern Corvette Camaro engine at his place. We've done some work with, and just playing with oil level and oil viscosities in that engine, we've seen almost 20 horsepower, and that's on a 560 horsepower motor, supposedly stock. With a little work, we've got it to 530 without having to take anything else inside of it, without ever touching a bolt on the inside of the engine. It's 530 on pump gas.
And just oil gave you 20.
Yeah, best or worst.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it because we did I guess Total Seal did a test years ago that we were kind of involved in where they put a 1-inch spacer. I've told the story before, a 1-inch spacer on the oil pan just to move everything away, and they picked up 40.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, top of the dipstick to the bottom of the dipstick on that LT1 engine was 10.
Yeah. I believe it. They're that critical. Well, it's good stuff. It's good to know all that. Our guys are raving in the chat room about this.
Oh, good.
I was just looking through to see if they had any more questions. Come on, guys, last shot. If you got anything you want to ask it now.
Not you, Mogul.
Yeah, not you, Mo. Long story.
Yeah.
Or Alan.
I'll tell you about that in Dubai.
In Dubai,
Yeah.
you go.
Well, I mean, more importantly, thanks for the information, but where can people get the stuff? Where's the best resource to get your products right now?
Well, I mean, like most people in this industry, Summit, Jegs, those are the big mail order places that they stock everybody's everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have it. So and a lot of people would buy from those people. So it's pretty easy. But also, too, I mean, most of your local speed shops, local engine builders, either they have the product or they have access to the product.
Okay.
I'm a big guy. I like to shop local and buy local. And so I would encourage you to look at your local speed shop or local engine builder. They can definitely get driven products for you if they don't have it, in stock already. If not, you can do the big guys or even, my wife loves Amazon. And I know people either love Amazon or hate Amazon. The only nice thing, oil's heavy, so it costs a bunch of money to ship. If you have Amazon Prime, they ship it to you for free.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's one nice benefit,
Yeah, if Amazon actually takes it in, that's or it's a third party that's willing to send their shit to Amazon, it works out good. All right, a place like Summit and Jegs, and most people have full access to full line. I mean, are there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so pretty much anything should.
But both Summit and Jegs do a great job of actually stocking, like literally everything we sell, like from spline grease, which is like the most oddball product we have, to brake-in oil, which is the most common, number one seller we have, been, longest term product we've had.
Okay. Hey, like one more quick one, just an add-on to the last one because somebody threw it in here. The LS30 stuff. A guy wants to know in a turbocharged LS, my thinking would be, well, how much boost, how much power. But is there anything you could give us on that, kind of, off the top of your head?
Okay, so here's your rule of thumb on this. If you go looser on bearing clearance than stock, let's say you go, half thou bigger, you got to go up one viscosity grade. So you're already going from 530 to 540, which we have an oil called DT40, which says it's for European cars, but don't worry about that. You can still use it in an LS engine. It's 540. Now, if you go higher in boost than say 15, 20 pounds, let's say you're north of that, then I would go a grade higher than that even. We've got an oil called FR50. I know it's for Fords, just bear with me, right? It's a 5W50. So if you're running looser clearances with a lot of boost, the FR50, the 550 is what you need. And we developed that one for the Ford Coyote motor because it has essentially the same kind of thing. It's got these gerotor oil pumps, crankshaft driven, but it's got 4 cam phasers. Those 4 cam phasers leak oil everywhere.
Yep.
So to have enough viscosity to run the cam phasers, you have to have this wide split multi-grade like a 550, which actually works out really well if you've got a, say, turbocharged, looser clearance, but still stock oil pump LS engine that needs that higher viscosity oil, but still with a good low temperature flow to keep the pump from cavitating.
All right. Well, very specific question, and this is the last one. So in a stock LS bottom end at 15 PSI, your LS30 would be okay.
Yeah. Stock bottom end, right up to about 15 psi. You're good.
Okay, that should answer that. Mike, you want to try that crazy? I've never heard of that.
Stiction.
Yeah, I don't even want to say it because it sounds dumb.
STIC.
Stiction. Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Stick slip.
Is that a thing?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does it mean anything?
Yeah, it does. I mean, stick slip is something where you basically have something that will slide, then it will stick and hold for a second, and then slide again. I mean, most times if you're getting the brakes really hard, getting into a corner, you got some stiction going on because you're oscillating the pedal, trying to find that edge of grip. But every time you lose it, you come off. Same kind of concept. The bad thing about stiction, that stick slip, is that it is that erratic behavior, that jolting and pounding, and it can not be really good because you don't have a full film of oil. So you're kind of in and out of full film into boundary, which that boundary is metal-to-metal contact. It's hard on parts. So you try to avoid that, and you try to avoid that by upping the viscosity until that goes away.
Okay, so stiction's a bad thing.
Stiction's a bad thing.
Okay, sounds like an internet word to
Kind
me.
of a creepy word.
Yeah.
But,
Whoever wrote that first, we're going to ban him for a week.
well, I guess what they were talking about was the oil viscosity, preventing that effect from happening. I mean, look, it sounds to me like, just looking at the word, you would never want it to occur on a bearing. That's just not something you want, period.
Yeah. And a bearing that'd be really, really bad. Stiction, that stick slip phenomenon is something you don't want. You would like to not have that happen. So from the additive package to the viscosity of the oil, you'd like to move it out of that condition. You'd rather, when you want, there's actually three conditions that parts operate in. That's transmission, rear end, engine parts, whatever. You have the full film, which is called hydrodynamic, which is basically, an oil film that separates two parts. Then you have what's called mixed film, which is where it's kind of intermittent, where it's mostly on an oil film, but think about the high peaks still kind of touch each other. So it's really, really close to having that full film, but there's this intermittent contact of the peaks. That's mixed film. And you unfortunately, like, let's say, a piston ring has to deal with this because at mid-stroke mid-stroke, the piston ring is moving so fast, it's moving on that hydrodynamic wedge. But as it nears top dead center, and on, say, a compression stroke, for example, you're building cylinder pressure. And you've got gas ports and all that kind of stuff in the piston. They're basically driving that piston ring into the cylinder wall. Well, it's eventually going to break through that oil film. And as it begins to, it's like going through a no-wake zone, right? If full film is like water skiing, the no-wake zone is like what happens when you go in there on water skis. You're still moving, but you're not really on top of the water anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then if the boat stops, then you just sink and you're wet. That's called boundary. So the valve train runs in that boundary condition. That's metal on metal.
Yep.
And that's where the additive package does all the work.
Okay.
So that's kind of what those three films are where everything's working. So boundaries, additive only. Your mixed film is kind of a combination, that crossover point between the boundary and the full film. And when you have things going on in the engine that you don't like, you try to move it out of that. Or you really can't get it out of boundary sometimes. You just have to have the right additive package. 'Cause either you have the right additive package to live in the boundary condition, or you don't, which is why when they took the zinc out of the oils, killed the camshaft. Because the valve train runs in that boundary condition. And without the proper additives like the zinc, it didn't stand a chance.
Okay. All right. Well, you got it all, man. Well, we all know where to get the stuff. We definitely appreciate you being here.
No, I appreciate talking about it.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's good.
I probably could talk for a lot more time about my dad's career and NASCAR. And I was actually, right before I called in, I was watching Kevin Harvick's comments after the race Sunday about, grassroots racing. I could talk for an hour just about that. What I've seen change in my lifetime on that, but maybe that'd be for another time.
Well, yeah, I mean, you want to come back? We
Absolutely.
can definitely have you back.
Oh yeah, anytime. Yeah, love to.
Well, we'll discuss out in the Middle East. We'll
good.
we'll get together and we'll sit on our feet and eat some food with our hands. You know the
There you
deal. You know the deal out there.
Here it comes.
All right. Well, listen, we appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely have you back. And thanks a million. And like I said, I'll see you out there.
Yeah, lots of good info. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all be good.
All right,
Thanks,
bud.
Mike.
Talk to you
See
soon.
ya.
See you, man.
All right, see you.
Let's hear about oil.
He knows what he's doing.
I'd hope so.
I think the most important thing is you can get the oil that's right for your application from talking to somebody. I mean, all those additive packs and all that other crap that everybody, I mean, we never got into any of that stuff. And I mean, I guess a lot of people over time always thought that was the best thing to get, like some kind of additive or,
Yeah.
I mean, cause I know they've come and gone, and look, let's face it. Companies like Lucas and all those guys, they make a shitload of money.
Yes, they do.
My God.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they sponsor every car basically in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Whole events and stuff.
Yeah. No, he was good. I learned some stuff. Everybody got their questions answered, and we should have him back. We should have him back just on a general show, just talking about racing. I mean, he's got a lot of info,
And he's been around it long enough, especially at that level. I mean, think about that, being around the cup level from the 80s
Yeah.
all the way to today, and you watch the progression.
And I mean, he's been in it. Like his dad raced for that long, and then he worked
building his own.
Yeah, and he worked at Gibbs, under Mark, who he's a big time engine builder.
In the beginning with the cup guys, I think that the general consensus was they're all a bunch of morons. You know what I mean? In the beginning.
Yep.
And I think that, I don't mean it badly, but I think from the power production standpoint, I think they had a lot of, we do it this way because we've always been doing it this way. And then as the technology filtered in, then the expense came up.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, they weren't the dumb guys anymore.
Yep.
They were.
Well, yeah, and you're right. I mean, they were I don't want to say the dumb guys, but they all did what the other ones did.
Remember, Bob Glidden was going to go down there.
Yep.
And fix everything. And there was some shit that went on behind that. But all of a sudden, like these guys, they elevated where they were. Like if you had a good solid drag racing background and all you had to do was make the motor last, I firmly believe in the early 80s you could have done better than probably most of the cup guys could have.
I would agree with that.
But not anymore. Now they have access to technology that most guys couldn't imagine.
Well, yeah, unlimited money will do that.
$18 million a car.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. And that was in 2008, he said.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
It's actually a little bit less now, only because
because all the stuff they put into place?
Well, and the qualifiers are gone. I mean, you know how much money they spent on qualifying engines? I forget what year that was, but it was before 08.
And you know what sucked? That was like one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's where everything got learned.
I know.
I mean, I remember telling you long ago, like I was at Sabco and I saw qualifying rods with 1/4-inch car bolts in them.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the coolest shit ever.
Sitting around talking about, little black magic tricks that you saw.
Yeah.
And you're like wrist pins that were like, what were they, like 500?
Yeah. Tiny stuff. Like they knew it was barely going to make it past, across the finish line.
Yeah, like if they had to go another 100 feet.
Yeah. It scattered a thing.
But that shit was neat. But yeah, expense-wise, I bet maybe that's why it was so high then, because of all the qualifying stuff that was going on.
Yep. Well, that was a lot of it. A lot.
Yeah, he'd be a lot of fun to have back on. He'd actually be fun to have in here.
Yeah.
If he's ever in this area. I mean, he still, does some road stuff.
He
right?
gets around. Yeah. He gets around.
Yeah. Well,
that might be a cool idea.
Yeah. Be good. It's always easier, when somebody's in here in person.
He was pretty good though.
No, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'll talk to him out there.
All right. Well, anything else from anybody? Tad, you're looking.
No, that's interesting, especially that his father built his own engine and made it through. That was impressive.
Yeah.
Everything done in one shop. I mean, now, everything's done in one shop. But
for everybody.
In the engine building wing and then the chassis building.
Yeah.
It's not the guy out in the shop, which is really, a couple 1,000 square foot building.
Dude, when he was talking about that, it's very impressive, but I can't help but think about Alan Kowicki. He was an owner driver and he won a championship.
Yeah.
I think he's the only guy that ever did that. Imagine that. I mean,
I never followed it close enough to know all the guys of the who's.
Well, I mean, you know that name, obviously.
Yeah, sure. I know that name, and I believe that Fudley pointed out that Lake actually beat Senna.
Yeah.
That's
In something.
yeah.
Checkers?
I know it was. Come on, man.
I don't know. It was FUD.
Yeah, Fudd knew about it. I'll have him call you later and explain it to you.
Yeah, I'll take that call.
All right. So anything else from anybody else?
Tad,
Bueller?
White Castle Pictures?
Oh God, don't get him started. All right.
Well, I hope you guys liked the show tonight.
Yeah, another one in the books.
Yeah.
Another one in the books. When are you going away? When does all that shit
April.
start? Oh,
April.
we got time? Well,
Yeah, we're good.
not that far.
No.
All right, we'll figure
Couple
it out.
weeks. Yeah.
All right, everybody. See you next week.
Yep.